Welcome to our breakout session, in which we're going to explore the experiences of those who've participated in the Health Education England ePortfolio supported route, another journey towards evidencing your advanced clinical practice. I'm Mary Hutchinson. I'm a senior lecturer at Birmingham City University. I teach on our MSc Advanced Clinical Practice, and I keep my clinical skills alive by participating in out-of-hours primary care sessions. And with me is my colleague Kate Knowles, who is Medicine Division Lead Advanced Clinical Practitioner at Nottingham University Hospitals NHS Trust, and also with the evolution of integrated care services, Kate is now the ACP project lead for Nottingham and Nottinghamshire. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Mary. With the absence of national regulation and mandate for advanced practice at either level or role, Health Education England's Centre for Advancing Practice offered the opportunity of a digital badge for those working at advanced practice. Presently, the ways that this can be obtained are either through a Centre for Advancing Practice accredited programme, apprenticeship or non-apprenticeship routes, or via a supported ePortfolio. Just to touch on the programme accreditation, individual universities apply to the Centre for Advancing Practice for their apprenticeship or non-apprenticeship programmes to be accredited, and this is all aligned with the multi-professional framework for advanced practice of 2017. And it is only the programmes since 2017 that can be accredited. We are going to talk about the supported portfolio route, and we're going to use the 10-phase process that is illustrated in this slide just to go through gently each of the processes involved. Firstly, the application. And many of you might say, who should apply for this? This route to the digital badge is open to clinicians working in advanced practice in the role and at the level. Those who have undertaken programmes that either have been accredited or are likely to be accredited are probably sensible not to apply for the supported portfolio route because they already have the digital badge potentially. Those who did their courses prior to 2017 or did a mixture of master's modules and learning and have a wealth of advanced practice experience are the most likely to be considering this portfolio route. Something that's incredibly important is that it's going to take time for these people to be filling in the various applications and the portfolio. And there may be learning development needs, and so it's imperative that employer support is sought and agreed at this point. The application itself is a very simple online process, requesting simple demographic detail and information about careers to date, qualifications to date, training to date. Cohort 1 is currently in progress, and people are still progressing through those phases. Once the application is submitted, Mary will explain the next process.
Thank you, Kate. The Centre for Advancing Practice reviews each applicant and decides whether they have provided robust enough evidence to suggest that they would be able to successfully complete the ePortfolio within 1 calendar year. Where they perceive that there simply is not enough knowledge, experience or understanding there, then the applicant is declined at that point by the centre and advised not to progress with their portfolio at that time or to progress with their application. But for those who do provide enough evidence that they're competent, immersed in advanced level work and will perhaps need to do some more work to fulfill the portfolio, they're given the green light to proceed. When that happens, the applicant is advised of the higher education institute to whom they've been allocated. We, as those higher education institutes, will have done some attendance at health education webinars to try to understand the portfolio process before the applicant and we meet. That's very helpful, and there's also helpful guidance published by HEE for both applicants and for supervisors. Once we are aware of who's been allocated to our university, we then reach out, contact that applicant. Well, actually, before we contact them, we review the application that they've submitted and the learning needs analysis form that they've completed, and we arrange to meet with them. Across the Midlands, there are 3 universities who have been awarded the contract to assess applicants, and that is ourselves, Birmingham City University, Coventry rather centrally, and Lincoln University more to the east. Kate?
Thank you. And so to give a little bit of an idea about time, it was the end of February, the 26th of February, when I was informed that I was successful in my application and that I'd been allocated to Birmingham City, and that they would be in touch with me. In the meantime, I was advised to start the completion of my learning needs analysis form. This, like the application form, was easy to access. It was online, but I downloaded it as a Word document because I'm going to submit this as a Word document by email to my educational supervisor. So, and that again was easy to do. The Centre for Advancing Practice had set up a webinar, much as the types Mary describes, and this, within a week of being told that I was successful, I had a webinar, and it was also recorded so that I could access it again if I needed to. The completion of the learning needs analysis is a great opportunity to actually really look at yourself and what are your gaps in your practice, in your development, in your training. So it was a really nice moment to actually look at what I've done and be sure that everything surrounding the safety and the capability and the confidence as working as an advanced practitioner had got the surrounding evidence that I needed to show that I was there as an advanced practitioner, or potentially to highlight an area that I wanted to develop further. This process probably took me about 2 to 3 hours because the actual form itself, I would describe it as being in 2 parts. The first part was actually just showing the evidence of my demographics, of my qualifications, of my training. So it was very much about finding certificates, uploading them, and embedding them into this Word document. It was quite useful to embed them, much like an agenda item for a meeting, because there was something that meant that the education supervisor had one document with the linked evidence that she could just click if needed. But the first phase was just about housekeeping and identifying that evidence. The second phase was the actual nitty-gritty of the 4 pillars, the framework, and this is where it's really helpful to really understand that framework. Some of the capabilities are combined, but it was very much of using a scoring system to score myself as to where I felt that I was, whether I was an expert or whether I was actually not quite an expert, or whether there were areas of weakness. And then there was a section for each pillar to actually give some supporting narrative for each area. Once I felt that this was complete, I then emailed it to my educational supervisor to say, here we go. And I needed to send that 1 week before the meeting so that they could have time to really look at that before we sat down and talked about it. Mary.
Thank you, Kate. Yes, we received the learning needs analysis, and Kate's was exemplary, as she said, by embedding the evidence to make things very, very straightforward. We probably spent an hour because both my colleague and I were new to this work. We decided for the first few we would do them together and try to understand the whole process as fully as we could. It probably was about an hour to review the portfolio fully and think it through and think about where the applicant may have gaps in the future. And then we arranged, as Kate said, to meet them. And again, we allocated an hour and a half for this and found these very rich meetings, learning a great deal about the applicant. Some were very self-aware, very very capable and very knowing of the subject matter. Others were competent, but perhaps not so aware of how they could use their experiences to provide the evidence that they would ultimately need to provide. And others, although they may have been doing some elements of advanced clinical practice, didn't fulfill enough of all four pillars that we could decide to progress. So at the end of the LNA meeting, the applicant and the education supervisor drew up a personal development plan, which the applicant would follow through, and also for those for whom it wasn't right to progress, we reached a mutual agreement and informed the Centre for Advancing Practice. That doesn't mean that the applicant could not reapply in the future. It simply meant there would be too much work, more than could be accomplished in one calendar year. Thank you, Kate.
And so I'm going to talk about the portfolio and narrative, which of course is by far the largest piece of work, because this is evidence of many years of experience, training, development that you may have got from various places in your archives on your shelves. Where the application took me 30 minutes to complete and the LNA probably took me 2 to 3 hours, this has already taken me 2 full days, and I'm by far not even completing having got this finished, and this is going to be an interesting point going forward, is how long does this actually take the applicant to complete. And this is not with the meetings. So there are meetings set up with my education supervisor to support me in the development of and the writing of my portfolio and my critical narrative. All evidence that you have as an advanced practitioner, you need to consider getting all of this into your portfolio, because this actually is all relevant across the 4 pillars. The Centre have made good resources and tools within the portfolio to accommodate any means of documentation, evidence, for instance, templates for you to use to email out for current work-based assessments, for instance, session feedback, teaching, case-based discussions, anything like that. Also multi-source feedback, tools such as those where you can get current work evidence of. But there is also an area where you can upload previous assessments, and this is by far probably the majority of my evidence, and I can scan or photograph some of the work that I have in my folders, my many folders, and I can actually upload those into this portfolio. One robust piece of evidence may well meet many of the capabilities of the framework. And so it's not necessarily the case that you need many pieces of evidence. It's really important to note that. The critical narrative is going to be a big piece of work. This must be written to the standards of Level 7 Masters Academic Writing and must link with your evidence in your portfolio. And on that, I'm going to move to Mary, because I'm in the process of writing and Mary is already assessing some of these.
Thank you. It's called the supported ePortfolio route because that support is available right from the point of the LNA meeting until final submission of the portfolio. If at that LNA meeting certain gaps are identified, then the educational supervisor and the applicant decide upon the nature of the work to be done to fill those gaps. It could be a formal course, a module at a university, not a whole course, but a module or two at university. It may be specific shadowing or even an honorary contract in another environment to enable the applicant to gain the knowledge and skills they will need to really function at an advanced level. So that is decided roughly at the end of the Learning Needs Analysis meeting, and appointments made definitely for the next meeting, and some are able to make, agree to regular committing to meeting with their supervisor. But one is not left alone to build the portfolio with no help or guidance. There's also very informative guidance from Health Education England themselves that provide clear information about who can be a peer reviewer, the kind of parameters of the evidence that you do need to submit, and just lots of helpful information is available.
So on completion of the further development, or on completion of the portfolio, it may well be that all those pieces have finally come together. The applicant speaks to the university, and the university are ready to review the completed jigsaw. Mary?
Yeah, absolutely so. So it's almost like a tripartite thing to before you can press the button to submit your portfolio to the Centre for Advancing Practice. When the applicant feels they have satisfactorily completed, they discuss that with their educational supervisor. If that person is happy, then they pass the portfolio to another reviewer. I think this is intended to be at another university for absolute fairness, equality and quality, so that this portfolio has further moderation. The other academic offers their acceptance. If the second reviewer is not happy, then the finished portfolio goes to another person, probably out of region, to assess. So it isn't all plain sailing necessarily from submission, but if we've all done our work well, applicants and supervisors, there should be no reason why there should be needing any judiciary work done at that last minute. Once the education providers are happy, the applicant is told they may submit to the Centre for Advancing Practice. And we hopefully will achieve their digital badge.
So hopefully we have answered a lot of your queries and shown you the process of the supported ePortfolio, how it works, certainly how Mary and I have found this and are using it. There's a lot of help on the website for the Centre for Advancing Practice, so that's where we can find a lot of resources and guidance. Thank you.